It is the 18th of July, 2024. I'm Laszlo Heuss, and I believe we've come one step closer to understanding the Voynich manuscript. What do we know for certain about the Voynich manuscript? According to Wikipedia, it's a book written in an unknown script and language, the meaning of which has not yet been decoded to this day. Radiocarbon dating shows that the manuscript was made in the 15th century. It is named after the American antiquities dealer Wilfrid Michel Voynich. That's all we know. All else is mere conjecture. Some believe that the military has already decoded it and are just unwilling to share it with the public. Of course, there are some who believe it to be extraterrestrial in origin. All studies conducted so far in the hopes of decoding it have hit dead ends. Therefore, I believe we must take a whole new approach. My theory is as follows. Images, very similar to the ones found in the manuscript, can be seen depicted in the hexagonal Maiolica floor tiles found at the excavations at Visegrad. The floor tiles are currently on display at the Budapest History Museum as a part of the Matthias and his period exhibit. During the excavation of Buda Castle in the potter's workshop near the kiln, two so-called ruined pieces were found leaning on each other and thus conjoined, fused by their glaze. These ruined tiles unequivocally prove that these floor tiles were made in-house, in Buda, in the middle of the 15th century. The paintwork of the glazed floor tiles, reminiscent of book ornaments, is accredited to the Milanese Francesco di Castello. Due to the similarity of the patterns, it can be assumed with reason that di Castello wrote it himself. It can be said with near certainty that the manuscript was in Buda in the 15th century. King Matthias and Queen Beatrice of Aragon ruled at this time. Francesco di Castello worked for them as a monk and was their subject. What happened next to the manuscript? Unfortunately, in the 16th century, the once rich and blooming kingdom was occupied in large part by the Ottoman Empire. The Renaissance Buda and Visegrad were both destroyed. The treasures and libraries of the palaces were brought to the Sultan's treasury. They were taken to Istanbul. As time passed, all books and writings were taken from there to the Ottoman state archives. At this time, multiple inventories were taken. This begs the question, was Voynich ever in Istanbul? Yes, there is evidence for this. As a matter of fact, there was a serious inventory shortage in the archives after Voynich's visit to Istanbul. It was only after this that Voynich became a successful antiquities dealer. It is with good reason that we can assume that the covers of the books stolen from the archives were torn off and destroyed by Voynich, who had them stolen or stole them himself so as to reduce traceability. The books were rebound and falsified certificates of origin were made. In order to decode a cipher, we must know the following. Who was it written by? What is it about? In what language was it written? Which words are definitely present in the text? And the final questions, how was it encoded? How do we decipher the manuscript? Let's start at the beginning. Who was it written by? Presumably, Francesco di Castello. However, since the document is made up of many parts, it is most likely that certain parts were copied, or drafts from a larger work. In what language was it written? The answer is automatic, in Latin, since that was the official language at the time. It is because of its ubiquity that many have tried and failed to decipher it as Latin, so this answer can be easily abandoned. We would have to know di Castello's life to see what languages he spoke. It is certain that he knew Latin, contemporary Italian, ancient Greek, Aragonese, Polish, and Hungarian as well. But, as a monk, one of his responsibilities was handling the correspondence of the royal court. So, there is a chance for him to know Arabic or Turkish as well. Also, because the Black Legion included mercenaries, Germans, Czechs, and Vikings, these also cannot be dismissed. What is the manuscript about? The illustrations aid in this. We can see that it's a religious script. I feel this is a perfect antithesis to Dante's Inferno. Yet, the subject here is the spiritual path to heaven, to purification. The medicinal herbs portrayed are not earthly in origin. Plants such as these only exist in heaven, near purgatory. The manuscript contains descriptions of the brews made from these magical herbs. We can see souls bathing in terraced basins filled with these medicinal herbs and becoming thusly purified and healed. Spiritual wounds are healed. Finally, the souls lose all their recollections and the suffering of the body. The souls reach a complicated sorting system. Here, the souls are already pure. They no longer have even a semblance of a body. They are portrayed as a minuscule dot or circle. Wind turbines sort and blow the souls from one chamber to the next. There is a belief in the journey of souls even today. In the city of Radicuero, Aragon, Spain, pumpkin lanterns are used to illuminate the path between the village and the graveyard, so that the souls may find their way to the graveyard by dawn. Halloween might originate from this. Let us return to deciphering the text. How did Di Castello encode the script? He probably didn't. This is not a cipher. It is a shorthand. Shorthand was known in the 15th century. It was not a novelty. Even Cicero's scribe-slave, Marcus Tullius Tiro, used shorthand. What do we know about shorthand? It uses countless abbreviations and usually omits vowels. There are no rules. Everybody uses their own rules. But in all cases, it is done quickly. There is no time for complicated encoding. The emphasis is on speed. Which words are definitely present in the text? God, heaven, brew, soul, leaf, flower, root, etc. These are the words to look for, and their letters must be substituted in the entire text. And the final question, how do we decipher the manuscript? Let's begin with the Hungarian language. Since the language has changed drastically in the last 500 years, we must first learn 15th century Hungarian, or to make translation software to translate between 15th century and modern Hungarian. In order to make the software, contemporary letters of the time can be used from the archives. For example, the Hungarian correspondence of the Pashas of Buda, which has appeared in print. The second step, the creation of translation software to translate from 15th century Hungarian to the potential shorthand script. The third step, there is a need for a software that replaces all instances of a symbol with a letter of our choice. The fourth step, use artificial intelligence to create a software. For example, 3 symbols are selected. If these 3 symbols represent 3 characters, then how many viable words can be formed by them? Fifth step, the creation of an internet forum. I think 1,000 people can work on a single topic in vain if their knowledge is not combined. That is why these software should be made free to use. Without money, teamwork, and the help of computer software, only luck remains. There is still hope. Let's examine page F86. It's a letter. That is, it has to have a greeting and a date. In the part dealing with astrology, presumably there are Roman numbers. I, V, X, L, C, D, M. We know the numbers. We must find which characters they are. If one were to find these numbers and insert them into the whole text, more characters may be identified and valid words may be found. How do we know that Di Castello made the floor tiles? The relevant literature accredits it to him. I read about it in Paul Voigt's book, Old Hungarian Homes. In the 15th century, manufacturing tiles such as these was state-of-the-art technology. Only a select few knew the process, and thus it is easy to identify its maker. In Hungary, similar tiles were only made 200 years later by the Hutterites. What is the reason that the manuscript has yet to be deciphered? Partially because the manuscript was seen by only a select few while in the archives. It also couldn't be deciphered because Di Castello spoke multiple languages, and it's possible that within a single sentence, one word is in Latin, one in Norwegian, and another in Hungarian. In my opinion, it would therefore be best to work in a multinational team. On the other hand, Voynich misled researchers as to the origin of the manuscript, for he couldn't say that he stole it from the archives. The manuscript is undeniably from the 15th century, and because of the archives in Istanbul, it might be Arabic in origin. The Quran also writes of heaven, and Islam also only lets cleansed souls enter heaven. We also cannot exclude the theory that the manuscript is a copy. Therefore, the original text might go back as early as the 5th century. I believe research would still be successful if we were to prove that it's not Hungarian. However, that is not how we stand. So far, all signs point to it being Hungarian or Aragonese of origin. That's where the solution to its origin lies. What would help decipher it? Naturally, money. There is a need for a team made up of programmers, historians, and linguists, and of course, more and more data reviewers. It is not to be expected to have 10 to 20 people work for months on end for free. It is of key importance that a few dedicated people team up and work together for success. Let's take this challenge seriously. Why is it important to decipher the manuscript? On the one hand, the challenge. On the other hand, with its help, we may become better acquainted with Renaissance thinking. The manuscript also proves that foreign invasion can serve to completely destroy and annihilate a nation's culture.